All right. We'll keep letting folks in from the Zoom space as they come in. Thanks for sharing your name and subjects and grade levels in the chat room space. It's appreciated. I've got the great pleasure of welcoming everyone. So thanks for joining us at our webinar today, the Grab a Paver and Get Ready to Place It on the CEMETS iLab Indiana Career Pathway Road. And we are fortunate to welcome our speaker today. Christi McBride is the former director of Hoosier Hills Career Center. While helping to build successful classrooms and partnerships, she developed an extensive network of educators and employers. Her work aligns career development strategies and curriculum that meets workforce readiness goals. She currently leads McBride Education Consulting, and we've had the pleasure of working with Christi for 5+ years on a variety of workshops for educators around global workforce needs and pairing that with education and education settings. So few housekeeping things. We are recording this webinar today, and we will post it on our Center for the Study of Global Change YouTube for viewing later. Folks who are attending today will receive a certificate of attendance for PGP purposes. Please use the chat if you have any questions for us, and looking to get started. So I'm going to stop my share and I'll turn it over to Christi to start us off today. All right, thanks, Christi.
Thank you, Eli. I appreciate that. Thank you for the warm introduction as always. And I just want to tell everyone I appreciate them being here and being a part of the conversation. So I will get going and see if I can stay on track, which is not the easiest thing for me to do. But I have Linda Mann and Eli Conwest to make sure that I do stay on track. So definitely thinking about getting our pavers ready for the new CEMETS iLab Indiana. And many of you are probably asking, what in the world is the CEMETS iLab Indiana process? And so here is information about it. We are going to look at what CEMETS iLab Indiana is. We will talk about what it means for high school schedules and diploma requirements, look at how it connects with employers in each region to fulfill apprenticeship training plans, and try to figure out if we might know who might be in charge of keeping all of those pavers level once they get in the ground. So CEMETS iLab Indiana is actually a coalition of folks that started this initiative many years back. So I have actually known about the CEMETS, or CEMETS, depending on where you're from, program for probably a good 25, might have been all 30 years of my time in education. It is connected from the Swiss model, and we'll talk about that just a little bit, but the whole focus in Indiana has been with well over 300, I think they're close to 400 Hoosier leaders representing all areas of K-12 education, higher ed, business, government that you can see here. It really started as a governmental move with a couple of senators back in 2019 saying we need to look at how we're putting together the system of getting students into educational experiences during high school and beyond high school. And ironically, this is also about adulthood. So I know that we have a couple of folks that are special education instructors, and they definitely service beyond 18-year-olds. So this Swiss model came from the ETH Zurich. And just so you know, you don't have to worry about taking lots of notes or taking a snapshot of anything. Eli is going to send out, Eli and Linda are going to send out the entire PowerPoint to you after the presentation, so you'll have all of the notes that you would like and be able to kind of search things that way. But ETH Zurich does an incredible research lab setting kind of system of how they work with folks. Every year, they offer various sessions, even through the pandemic, they were doing so, and looking at sharing with folks how their programs operate in Switzerland. So they still use that terminology of the vocational and professional system. And many of you will probably know that there are definitely differences in the way that the Swiss or European models kind of track their students, so to speak. And I hate to say that because I don't want you to get a negative connotation from this at all. There are options for students to onboard and offboard and then re-onboard throughout this entire program. So building this iLab in Indiana, and now it's being called INCAP, which you see at the bottom of the screen, the Indiana Career Apprenticeship Pathway, is really in line with what the federal government is doing with pulling the educational components down, and the funding that is happening now at the state, from the federal level, at the state level, is about 80% around career apprenticeship models. So Indiana is not the only one who has looked at this program. We are not the only one who is using the Swiss model. You may have heard of Colorado CareerWise. They are using it. It is in Kentucky. It is in Arizona, and there are several other states that are doing this iLab process. The lab itself kind of term is a little different. What's really in the lab is that there are educators alongside of business leaders who are looking for ways to do very much what this slide shares, is to open the doors for Hoosiers to be able to stay in Indiana, not have a brain drain happen, whether they're looking at going to a 4-year institution, a 2-year institution, or simply going into a career field straight out of high school. There are a variety of opportunities that they are looking at, and the lab is coming from folks who are coming together, looking for tongue and groove ways to change the curricular items that are connecting to these pathways. So we're going to see some specifics, and we'll have some time for questions as we go along. But I just want to give you this kind of to make sure that you have an understanding of where they're coming from and why Indiana, why now? So the Indiana Career Apprenticeship Pathway has an opportunity for that hands-on real world experience. Now, it is just not about career and technical education, but it is about the academic and the hands-on going together. So looking at employers that are interested in developing talents of our students to obviously fill their workforce talent pipeline needs. And the other side of it is to look at what type of coursework really does make the connection. So in the last probably 15 to 20 years, I am sure that you will agree with me. Sarah, you probably know how much change has happened across curriculum, right? You've seen that there have been updates to science, and it's not just every 5 years when we get a new book, right, that we're paying out for, but it really is happening every couple of years, if not every year. About 5 years ago in the CTE world, there was a business course that underwent 4 name changes within the course of 1 calendar year. So this whole lab setting and this Indiana Career Apprenticeship Pathway, or INCAP promotion, is not going to be something that is going to be something that you hear about ongoing, but it's not going to hit the classrooms except for those piloted programs for until the 26-27 school year. So yes, you have a little bit of time to wait, but truly there's no time like the present to figure out what it is that your students, either at the high school or if you're working with adult students, what they need and what direction you might be looking for. So these are the two training and education pathways that have been put together. Multi-year apprenticeship program. So several of you may be familiar with Hoosier Hills Career Center or the other Career Center programs in your areas. Those programs are typically for juniors and seniors. Well, this is a little bit different. They are looking to push it down to the sophomore year because the new diploma, certifications, accreditations, all of those types of things are looking at work-based learning, real world, hands-on, making sure that you're building the exact skills that you need to advance your future. Number 2 there shows you about the differences in collaborating with industry. This is about developing education and training materials by employers, promoted with employers coming in to help with the classrooms, and giving our students opportunities at jobs, then on to careers much earlier than what we've seen before. So how does that all connect with the Center for the Study of Global Change at IU? Eli, I'll hand it over to you. And you're muted.
Okay, can we hear me now? Okay, very good. Sorry, my internet was also just being a little fuzzy there for a second, so I hope I'm coming really now. So as Christi said, why are we interested in helping get the word out about CEMETS and the Swiss model and how that connects back to education and what you might need to know as an educator? So the Center for the Study of Global Change houses a couple different programs connecting global learning and global studies to education outcomes. And the reason is because state here in Indiana, but of course, if you're joining us from a different state or an international school somewhere else, you might be experiencing the same things in your settings as well. So the Indiana Economic Development Corporation reports that over 1,000, likely over 1,090 companies in Indiana are funded through foreign direct investment. So these are corporations abroad that are funding businesses here in our state. And that map here on the thing shows that almost every single county in Indiana has a company or corporation funded through foreign direct investment. So it's across our state. It's not just Indianapolis. It's not just Gary. Across our state, funders are from outside of the United States are supporting businesses here in our state. Indiana is one of the top exporters in the country as well. We've exported over $46 billion worth of goods. That's a 64% increase over the last decade. And these include things you might think of like agricultural products or pharmaceuticals, but it includes a whole host of new products as well, niche products and things like that. So our workforce is no matter what our industries are, our workforce is a global workforce. And of course, if you're providing goods and services in Indiana, as well, 6.2% of our state's residents now are foreign born, and immigrants account for over 9.6% of entrepreneurs. So your students might be entering a workforce where they're working for an immigrant entrepreneur. They may be getting taught by education. 19% of post-secondary teachers in Indiana are foreign born as well. So they'll be encountering, if they're in healthcare, if they're in a variety of service professions as well, they'll be encountering folks who may speak different languages. 275 languages are spoken in homes throughout Indiana as well. So no matter our industries, global approach, a global awareness is needed. These are some statistics from some different surveys we've given or are knowledgeable about. A study of over 2,000 US employers found that 93% of valued employees who were ready to work with a variety of folks, either colleagues clients that come from different cultures and countries, that globally competent art workers are competitive workers and make for competitive businesses, and the need for intercultural and global competences is higher than ever, and we just imagine that that will be a continued growth and need. And so this is why we're interested in this topic and wanting to connect. There's some resources there to help you. Christi will pick back up this webinar where I've left off, but here's some resources I'd love to share with you. The Global Center worked with Ivy Tech Community College on a global workforce skills certificate. I will be sharing these. I'll share these links out when I'm done talking, but I also include these PowerPoint slides with Christi's PowerPoint slides that we will share with you in the coming days after the conclusion of the webinar. So check this out. It's a 21. It is an independent certificate, but it can also be paired with other degrees, business degrees or something at Ivy Tech. If your students or yourself are interested. And here's 3 resources also for you specifically as educators. We've also worked with an organization called Digital Promise in the past that offers some resources for educators on incorporating global competencies into their classroom. So I'll just briefly show you their website here, if it will load for me. Okay, well, that's not going. I'll just describe them really quickly. We have developed with our Center for International Business Education and Research a resource called Your Global Future. This is for students. It includes videos from folks here in Indiana who have jobs and all sorts of things like healthcare, culinary, and more health that have accounting that have needed their global skills or language skills in the classroom or post the classroom in their careers, and demonstrating although they have careers and jobs here in Indiana, they use their global and language learning skills. And so that link, their global future, will link to those videos here. And lastly is the Indiana Language Roadmap, which is another project through the Global Center, and that has a variety of that data on a global workforce needs and how Indiana can promote global language learning and global learning here in the state. And I will share those links out, and I'll turn it back over to Christi.
Thank you so much, Eli. I just can't say enough about the wonderful opportunities to connect with the Center for the Study of Global Change. And some of you may have been, I know some of you were, a part of those sessions that were hosted in person or virtually. So I just appreciate you all being here for this as well. But that Ivy Tech connection for that certification just speaks volumes. So let's make this connection between the diploma requirements with CEMETS iLab Indiana options. So here are some of the components that are a part of the implementation of the new diploma. So you can see several different types of things. I really hate just reading things to people, but the most important thing that I wanted to show you is there are 2 most important things. There are always new titles and course descriptions. There will be a complete credential of value list coming up. And you see those things are coming. Increased flexibility on who can teach high school and college courses. But the 2 at the bottom are really the most important. There is a comprehensive work-based learning guidance plan that is supposed to be coming out in the first quarter of 2025. We had the first quarter of 2025, and it is not out yet. again, unfortunately, those things happen in education. So there is a graduation pathway guidance document that is there from the most recent, but before the end of this calendar year, you will be seeing more and more coming forward. Their first session will be in November. You should hear something after a convening that is taking place with the Fairbanks Foundation, who is leading the charge for the CEMETS iLab Indiana program. And they are starting in the business area, which is great that I have some examples for scheduling and what students can do with that coming up a little bit later. But they are going to first look at banking, business, finance, and then insurance and some other specific areas that connect to the banking industry and business industry in general. The second thing that is important, and it's in the red box here, is that there is an interactive advising tool that RFPs have just gone out for those. And that is going to be a new tracking system that is supposed to be way less expensive than the things that schools are currently being asked to or forced to use because of the only things that we have out there. And I won't tell you the things that I like and don't like, but there is more on the way. Employability skills was the topic of the last session that I did in June. And there are new employability skills criteria that are, or improved language for it, I should say, that are coming out by, supposed to be out by the end of September. So the new diploma requirement constructs kind of focused on these three things. What's a way to personalize and make it relevant to students, because we know that it has to mean something. We have a very different set of students than we had 30 years ago when I started. The value add of work-based learning is just another way to get them that hands-on tool. We know that John Dewey at the turn of the century wrote about that we needed to do the hands-on experience that added to education, but that has gone to the wayside except in career and tech ed classes for the most part. Now, I do not mean to say anything about our sciences that have the labs involved, not at all. Those are wonderful opportunities, but so often we miss that hands-on portion, and fortunately or unfortunately, it's definitely a focus here, and it's focused around work-based learning. The other thing is to the main construct is to make sure that there are outcomes that the school experience actually gives to our students, certifications, certificates, dual credits, the ICC, the Indiana Common Core. So I spoke with a friend of mine, Andy Allen, who is the principal over in Batesville, and he is one of the members of a committee that I've been on for the last almost 2 years now with the iLab CEMETS programming, and they were asked to pilot what it might look like for Batesville High School students. So this happens to be a Batesville High School example in business. And this student, you could see from middle school, would take PCC, preparing for college and careers, algebra, PE, or health. And yes, you can get both of your PE credits in middle school now. Spanish. So I think there was a Japanese teacher, if I'm not incorrect. Don't know if you have been teaching at the middle school at the 8th grade level, but those are some things that are being discussed and pushed down. Spanish is maybe one that's been there for a while, but it doesn't mean that other languages can't be. Biology and the computer foundations, because that is now a new requirement. Then when you get to the high school, you know that our requirements for the number of credits have gone up to 42, but they've decreased from the standpoint of what is it that we are looking for students to accomplish when they're at the high school level. So Andy's team of counselors and department chairs and administration have taken a look at this, and they have very clearly stated that they believe that giving their students entrepreneurship classes, going ahead with their math and their English through the 10th grade requirements at the high school, as well as their second year of Spanish or whatever world language that might be, would then prepare them for taking courses in partnership with Ivy Tech here specifically. Doesn't mean that Vincennes or another school could be used, but they happen to have an Ivy Tech site in Batesville, and offering an apprenticeship model where there is a work-based learning English focused course, a work-based learning IVYT 106 is actually kind of an introductory 1 credit course to being successful as a collegiate student, and a whole lot of WBL, work-based learning opportunity time going forward. Their outcomes have enrollment seal plus and employment seal plus. So this happens to be 2 of the 3 enrollment, employment, and enlistment options that the state is looking at pushing or is pushing the students to decide upon with their new diploma requirements. So the Indiana College Core, a CT in Business Administration are things that can happen based on these math, philosophy, psychology, science, marketing, business courses that Ivy Tech is partnering in. How does that really move forward? So here is the example, and I cannot see the chat on my screen. So Linda, you might have to yell out if there's something, a question or something like that. Just give me a shout out, or Eli, either one. But I want you to be able to just kind of take this in. Freshman year doesn't look any different really than a typical freshman student would look. One of the things that Andy said they wanted to do was make sure that in that freshman year, students had at least 2 credits of something around a career path, which is why they've looked at, in this example, the principles of entrepreneurship. So again, down there at the PCC and IVYT 106, depending on your career path at Ivy Tech, you get a different IVYT course. And it's just 1 credit, which is why it shows it's 1 credit with PCC, 1 credit with IVYT 106. And then this student would get the opportunity of those 2 credits in their freshman year to inquire, sniff out, new language, sniffing, and experience what might be possible in the business arena. So some of you are familiar with career academies, again, could be done in this way. Their sophomore year doesn't look very much different, except for, again, at the bottom, you see that there are several partnered semester 1, semester 2 dual credit courses as early as their sophomore year. In the junior year, and sorry, let me back up to the sophomore year. And that is exactly why they are saying that they're pushing things down to a 3-year instead of just a 2-year plan, because it is taking those dual credit courses down to the sophomore year rather than waiting for the junior year before those happen, as most of us are used to seeing. So then the junior year is definitely stacked with the academic, but also stacked with work-based learning. And you see there's a comm class, a communications class that is built into work-based learning that meets in the junior year, a couple days a week in person. More to be said on that. And then in the summer, those students taking this path would also take those 2 Indiana College Core courses through Ivy Tech in the green and be working on competency-based and take an online computing foundations course through the school in the summer between their junior and senior year, so that when senior year comes, they have math, poli-sci, that's the econ, a work-based learning English, so it's directed by their business area of interest, and they would then take accounting and philosophy so that they have those outcomes solidified by the end of their senior year. Okay, let's look at health sciences. How does it work for another area? Again, freshman and sophomore years don't look very different. Principles of biomedical sciences, PBS, definitely a course that most freshmen are entering into when they go to high school. Sophomore year, not much changes. That world language is in there. This does show the Spanish in the 3rd year, again, could be different world language. And here we have human body systems. You'll see in the junior year, they finish a pathway with medical interventions, but they've also coupled English 111, and COM 101. English 111 is the equivalent of W30 131 of IU. English 111 is the Ivy Tech version. They will again take courses in the summer between their junior and senior year to work toward that Indiana College Core, which is why I left those in green so that you could track that. They go along with the CT in Certified Clinical Medical Assistant, taking those dual credit courses and taking a test, which is a certification test for that. And their work-based learning in both their junior and senior year allow for that opportunity of coursework as well as work-based learning out in the field at a skilled nursing facility or a doctor's office or a hospital. So those outcomes after that senior year show here enrollment Seal Plus, again, for the Indiana College Core, and employment Seal Plus, a CT and certified clinical medical assistant. So you've seen 2 different types of pathways that have the same outcomes, and both expect that between the summer between their junior and senior year, sorry, correct that. So between their junior and senior year, there are courses that the students will need to complete. But again, the opportunity to take those sniffing classes, those career interest classes, are guaranteed at that freshman year level. And that's why the counselors, the department chairs, and the administration at Batesville High School have made that commitment to their students. So one more point about these outcomes, the enrollment Seal Plus, the Indiana College Core that you've seen on both of the examples that I've shared. That Indiana College Core is guaranteed to be 30 credits at all of the state institutions, IU, Purdue, Ball State, in Indiana, okay? That guarantees students to have completed 1 year of college if that's what they choose to go on to. The CT and certified clinical medical assistant allows students to go straight into the workforce and then go on to an LPN or an RN or a nurse practitioner. You can keep going up the steps and taking that next level of coursework. So how is that going to look for students? So they have blue and white days, 90-minute blocks, and still have an SRT. You see one on the blue days. So most students are doing these blue and white days just as they are. And here comes the difference. Or sorry, here's week 1, 3 blues, week 2, 2 blues, the reverse, 2 whites and 3 whites, with a little consistency that you see Monday is the day that the blue and the white alternate. So here's the junior year. The CEMETS iLab Indiana program asks for us to send our students out into the workforce earlier, sooner in their junior year, 3 days a week, and 2 days a week they go into the classroom and work on their content. So they have to be in a situation where they can be very connected, in the zone, 2 days a week in the classroom. The other 3 days, again, there's a communication course that's going along with that, with the work-based learning, and that's a check-in every day to make sure they're doing what they need to do. But they're out in the field, they're out working 3 days a week, the entire day, not a half day like a CTE program, the entire day. So it's a little different to think about. Here's the senior year, again, on a blue, white schedule. They are out 4 days a week and only in session 1 day a week, in person in the classroom in a class. So you have to, again, make sure that they are in the zone, and that SRT time is an opportunity for them to get extra help if they get behind. So the goal is that by 2034, that the education to workforce system will actually ensure students that they can get out and be successful citizens in the workforce and follow what their passion areas are. This is the goal of the iLab, the CEMETS iLab team, and what their major contribution is to Indiana's educational system. One new rulemaking piece, accountability. How is that going to look for schools when we are changing our diplomas? We're changing the way the classroom looks. We're shifting things around. There's going to have to be a whole lot of flexibility. What will those teachers who are teaching only 1 day a week, those specific students, do? When I spoke with Andy and a couple other principals about it, this is an opportunity they see for getting extra help for students in other areas. This is an opportunity for some of those teachers to be the ones who follow up with the professionals in the setting to make sure the students are doing what they need to be doing, that they're being successful in their either paid, unpaid, volunteer employment situation that they're in. But those are, again, supposed to be coming. They were supposed to be finished before this summer was finished, and they're still on the way. State Board of Ed is reviewing some of those components, and they've had, you might have seen in the news that they had the US Department of Education folks for apprenticeships here and taking a look at what's happening in the state. So I'm going to ask, Linda, just let me know if someone has a question. Give me just, I think, maybe 2 more slides and I will be done with this. If not, 1 more slide. Nope, there we go. That's my thank you for listening to me drone on about CEMETS iLab Indiana. So I hear that Joanne has a question. Maybe if I can scroll down over here. I'm wondering, since students are expected to take classes between junior and senior years, is that online or do the students go to the school for these classes? So let me take that part first. The IV Tech classes, they would be, most of them are actually online classes, and they will be also taking the computer class online through the school. So those do have the availability of being online. Is it going to be required for all schools? So students will have to have time to be able to have their work-based learning for their, okay, hold on. Sorry, Joanne. So it is going to be required for all schools. Work-based learning is, it is in the law now that students have those opportunities, and that students have experiences at certain amounts of hours is what they're looking at. Used to be they had to do an 80-hour piece. So it's going to be much more than that now. Has all of that come down through the pipeline yet, Joanne? No, it hasn't. But the expectation is that they are giving them the opportunity to go and learn about the experiences in those different employment settings, make some money, right? And see if that's what they want to do and have that awareness happen a lot earlier than what we typically see our students doing, waiting until their senior year. And I will tell you that I have been definitely one at the Career Center. I did have some juniors that wanted to go out and do work-based learning early, and I didn't let them until their summer between their junior and senior year. And then we set it up for them. But it was one of those things that I focused on to be a senior, thinking if they maybe had a little bit more experience driving, or if there was someone who was definitely going to get them transportation, because truly transportation in all of this is the thing I see as the biggest culprit of the positivity that can be moving forward with our students understanding what it means to be productive citizens, not just productive in silliness or productive in finishing up your homework, but productive in how to save, how to be financially supporting yourself to an extent. So the goal is out there across all areas of interest to have students who are interested in banking, for instance, to start out as tellers. But then there's also a program piece that they're looking at of how to learn about the loaning system and give different opportunities for students who have different levels of mathematical abilities to be able to help with that as well. So I think there are a couple interesting things that we can take away from this. There are definitely positives that I see. I see the ability for some of our students who have family situations where it would really be helpful if they had a job, or students who do not have the self-esteem, the self-worth built in from whatever their upbringing has been or their experiences in education or sports or what have you, where being able to work with their hands is the thing that they want to do and love to do, and this would be a great opportunity for them. Part of me still wonders about that senior year experience, only being there 1 day a week. Not completely sure how all of that is going to happen. However, if you take a look at those examples, you'll see that they're Ivy Tech classes and they're not in the school building. So they would come into the school for those to get some teacher support, some in-house teacher support, or because some of those could be online as well. Or you will have the opportunity for them to, meet with small groups, do group work on some of those items. But it's about getting students to understand what productive citizenship is and what productive citizenship is for the state of Indiana, as well as how we connect regionally and globally. So yeah, there's a lot there. And so any other questions, please pop on. Pros, cons, positives, negatives. Has the state figured out how transportation of high school students to these? No, they have not. They have not figured that out. That is the thing that I think is going to be the biggest hindrance. There are some areas, some regions of the state that are looking at some transportation sharing to different jobs where they actually have kids Ubered to a location, or a Lyft or an Uber to a location. But as of right now, there is not a be all end all for what's going to happen transportation wise. That is definitely a concern. Not all of our students have licenses, let alone have a vehicle to be able to do that. Are there going to be a variety of levels? Yes. Do they also want to have folks look at the experience that's simulated? Those things are still possible, and so simulated job training can happen in the high school, like through the career and tech ed classes, and through some of the other classes that may be new as we go about this, because there will be new curriculum. I see that Mary has asked about, maybe Mary Lou, I think there might be an extra space there, about the date of implementation of the new curriculum. They are hoping to, so right now it's in an incubator phase, and they are working in, Purdue is working on microelectronics, and Ivy Tech is working on that with them as well, so that they have things in alignment for our high school level. The finance and banking and insurance and business law types of things, that will be 2026 to 2027. Likewise, the health and life sciences. I actually had the pleasure of meeting with the gentleman who is in charge of the Bio Crossroads, who's doing the health and life sciences segment. And he has some great people on his team, also working with Ivy Tech and IU. And they are also looking at 26, 27. So we have another year until some of that new curriculum rolls out. Expect that the Department of Education, along with the governor's office, expect to see some workshops coming forth in the spring about the new curriculum and from the new curriculum. That will be forthcoming. They are working on piloting in the spring with, I believe, 12 high schools. At one point, they were going to use 8. I think they've gotten it up to 12 high schools from the northern, central, and southern part of the state so that they have demographic areas all across. So hopefully, Mary Lou, I answered your question there. Joanne, I'm reading. Internet availability. So there have been some discussions about the internet availability and the fiber network. You're welcome, Mary Lou. And there are intermediaries, so folks that are trying to help mitigate those types of issues, like the internet and transportation. And those businesses are looking at some new devices that can be shared with students and their families to bring internet accessibility to them for time periods so that they can get their work done. There will also be in-person opportunities so they could get to Ivy Tech. And yeah, I'm going to quit with that part. Sorry. I don't want to say too much because I've heard some people say some really cool opportunities for students, but in case it doesn't happen, I don't want to say that and then be wrong. I'll go with what I know. I just was on a meeting on what did I say, Linda, the 23rd, the 24th, the 24th, and had the update. Thank you all for your questions. I got time for just a few more. You are welcome, Joanne. Sarah, are you still on there? Do you have any questions that I haven't ruffled through? Okay, Eli, I'll throw it back over to you. Thanks, Sarah. Transportation's my big one too. I will say this. In Monroe County, I know Monroe County has a lot of things for those of you that are around here, but in Monroe County, did you know that they have just started a new van system for getting people to different places like this? And one of the scenarios was specifically around getting students from the Academy of Science and Entrepreneurship in Bloomington to the Ivy Tech, because up until maybe just 9 months ago, if it's been that long, the busing, yes, Blink, that is what it's called. Thank you. The bus did not make it all the way out to Ivy Tech Bloomington. So that's interesting. But that is just one example of organizational and city connections with business entities, and that's where the push is there really is a push back to these businesses that if you want this to be industry led, that means you need to come get these kids, or you need to figure out a way to help us with that transportation. And I will say that that was a stronger conversation that Ascend to Indiana had at the last convening with these folks to push back on the business industry folks to say, if you want them, they can't all get to you. How do we make sure that we get really hard workers to you and that they don't get left out because they don't have transportation? Yes. Again, thank you so much. And thank you, Eli and Linda, for inviting me to be a part of this again. And I have just been fortunate enough to be asked to be on different committees and serve on different things across the state. And even though I'm no longer in the school setting, my heart is always going to be there. Sarah, I agree with you. I hope something gets addressed quickly and I will continue to say those things about the logistics every time I'm in. November 14th is our next convening. And Brad Rohr, who is the CEO of Ascend Indiana, ironically was at Subaru. So I told him he should figure out how to connect Subaru with this, but I don't know that he thought that was as funny as I did. Thanks, Eli. I see you laughing. You thought it too.
Indeed, yeah, I like the pushback on the industry partners for helping make this a really a uh, community thing and not just leaving it up to school districts. Um, Thank you, Christy, for the second of two webinars this summer about global careers and connections to the new high school diploma and the different components of it. So we'll have both webinars this month's and last month's posted on our website, and we'll share that out with everyone who is in attendance. You can share that out with your colleagues and so forth. We'll be sending that certificate out as well as the slides. And thanks everyone for spending your Monday evening with us today. And feel free to connect with us again. You can connect with me or Linda Meehan in the next few weeks if you have questions specific to the Global Center